In the stillness of midnight, Chidi felt a soft hand brush across his chest. He smiled, thinking it was his wife reaching for hot affection in her sleep. But the touch lingered strangely, heavier than usual. Slowly, he opened his eyes and froze in terror. It wasn't his wife beside him, it was her mother, staring at him with unholy desire, a look no son-in-law should ever see. This is Folktales by Chisom, where shocking stories come alive. Watch closely, because today's tale will leave you speechless. Abuja has a way of making new couples dream. Sarah and David were one of those couples. They met during youth service and stayed in the city because Abuja felt like fresh air after rain. Wide roads, bright lights, and hope at every roundabout. Sarah ran a small fashion shop near Wuse Market. David worked as an operations officer in a bank in Maitama. Their first apartment was a simple 2-bedroom in Gaki, walls painted cream, curtains Sarah sewed herself, and a tiny balcony where they ate roasted corn and watched evening traffic slide by. They were happy in the easy, ordinary way. Shared toothbrush jokes, after-work gist, small fights about whose turn it was to wash plates, and long hugs that fixed everything. On some Sundays, they visited Jabi Lake with bottled zobo and suya, drawing lines in the sand and planting dreams. A car next year, a plot of land in Lugbe, children who would know peace. Family mattered to both of them. Sarah often said, "My mother is my first friend," and David nodded because he respected the woman who raised his wife alone. When Grace called one morning to say she wanted to visit Abuja for a short while, Sarah's voice danced. "Mommy is coming," she told David, hugging him from the side. "We'll cook her favorite soup. You love her gist."
David smiled. "Your mom is welcome." He meant it, but he also silently prayed the visit would be brief. The apartment was small, and marriage, though for two families, needs space for two hearts to breathe. Grace arrived on a bright Thursday afternoon. The bus terminal was noisy, but Sarah and David made it feel like home. Cold water in a flask, meat pie in a paper bag, and laughter that followed them to the car. Grace blessed David as he lifted her box. "You are a good man. May God keep you," she said it with warmth, and David felt proud. He wanted this visit to go well. At first, it did. Grace cooked egusi with bitter leaf that made David eat more than usual. She told childhood stories about Sarah that made them all laugh. She prayed in the mornings, filled the home with songs in the afternoons, and clapped softly during evening news when the anchor spoke good things about the economy. Abuja felt gentler with an older voice in the house. But sometimes peace is a picture that hides a shadow, and shadows grow if no one turns on the light. Grace took over house rhythms in a week. Market runs at Wuse, bargaining like a pro, pepper drying on a tray by the window, soup in the freezer labeled "For David" with a smiley face Sarah drew in marker. She was useful, quick, and strong. The kind of mother who made a home feel busy and safe. Neighbors liked her. The security man at the gate called her Mama Abuja. She laughed, shoulders proud. Yet when the house got quiet, a different wind blew. Grace watched David closely when he returned tired from work, eyes soft but steady. She praised him more often than felt normal. "You carry yourself well," she said one evening, handing him water. "Men like you are rare. My daughter is blessed." Compliments are good, but something in her tone held more weight than a mother's pride. Sarah noticed none of this. She was excited to show her mother the shop, the clients, the dresses with neat stitches. "Mummy says I sew like a machine," she giggled, turning in a new gown. David clapped. He wanted to keep the joy on Sarah's face, so he swallowed the small stones of discomfort he felt around Grace. The first odd moment was tiny. David and Grace met at the narrow kitchen doorway. Their shoulders touched, normal in a small house, but the touch stayed a heartbeat too long. Grace did not step back quickly. She smiled as if she had the right to linger. David mumbled, "Sorry, Ma," reached for water, and turned the TV louder when he sat, using sound to chase the feeling away. Another afternoon, Sarah dashed to buy thread at the corner shop. Grace peeled oranges and brought a slice to David, standing close while he chewed. "Sweet," she said softly. "Sweet things are good for strong men." David stood and cleared his throat. "I need to make a call." He spoke to his friend about football for 10 minutes, grateful for any voice that wasn't his own fear. He told himself he was overthinking it. He told himself respect would control every line. He told himself Sarah loved them both, and that love would keep the borders clear. But telling yourself a thing is different from it being true. The signs grew bolder, the way harmattan grows, slowly, then all at once. On a Saturday, Sarah left for deliveries in Garki. David decided to rest at home. Grace, in a fitted blouse and wrapper, wandered to the kitchen where he was making tea. "Let me do that," she said, reaching across him for the sugar. She leaned too far. The blouse shifted. David moved away and pretended not to notice. "Thank you, Ma," he said, carrying his cup to the balcony, letting children's laughter below wash his mind like water. Another day, after church jollof, Sarah went to nap. Grace washed plates while David wiped the table. She splashed water on her blouse, laughed, and reached for the towel David held. Her fingers covered his a second longer than needed. "Your hands are warm," she said. David wiped the same table again and again until the wood squeaked. Words came next. One evening, Sarah stepped out for thread again. Grace sat across from David in the living room. "I pray for you every morning," she began. "A man must be strong in the home, not only in the office. If a man is not satisfied, he looks outside. That is how marriages break." David's back straightened. "Sarah is a good wife," he replied. "She is learning," Grace said, with a thin smile. "You deserve care." From that night, David made a private rule: don't be alone with Grace. If Sarah slept, he stayed in the lit living room. If Sarah went out, he went out too. He filled silence with TV noise, football chats, and long articles he didn't enjoy. He didn't want to hurt Sarah with a story that sounded like a knife. He chose silence, thinking silence was kindness. But silence is a seed. Seeds grow. Mornings in Garki bring noise that feels like life. Hawkers calling, "Per water," buses coughing awake, radios preaching hope. Inside the flat, Sarah sang while frying eggs. Grace shelled groundnuts. David read the newspaper without seeing it. He told himself, "Today I will tell Sarah." He needed to. He owed her truth. Afternoon came before courage. Sarah left for Wuse to fit clients. David came home early, hoping for quiet. Grace entered the living room with a smile that looked too sure. "You're home early. You should rest. Sarah doesn't always know how to take care of a man's needs. She is still learning. I understand men." David stood so fast his drink almost fell. "Mama, please don't say that again," he said firmly. "You're my wife's mother.
I respect you. This is a line we must never cross." Grace didn't flinch. "You think I don't see? The way I avoid your eyes, the way your breath changes when I stand near. Don't pretend, David." He stepped onto the balcony and called Sarah. "When are you coming home?" he asked, too quickly. "In an hour," she laughed. "Why, do you miss me?" "Yes," he said. He did. He missed the safety of her presence like a thirsty man misses water. That night, when Grace slept, David sat on the bed and tried again. "Sarah, there's something I need to tell you." She turned with a gentle smile. He stared at the face he loved and saw the hurt his words would cause. He swallowed them. "It's work stress," he lied. "I've been quiet." Sarah hugged him. "We'll pray. You'll be fine." He hated himself for building a wall with silence. But fear is heavy. Sometimes it wins. Days later, Sarah attended a client's wedding in Asokoro. Grace claimed a headache and stayed home. In the evening, she appeared in a long house dress that clung where it shouldn't. "If I were not Sarah's mother, if you met me as a woman, would you desire me?" she asked softly. David said, "Mama, stop this," voice sharp with shock. The door opened. Sarah walked in smiling, holding a small souvenir bag. "They gave us—" She stopped when she saw their faces. Grace changed tone fast. "We were talking about keeping desire alive in marriage," she said lightly. Sarah laughed, kissed David's cheek, and went to hang her wrapper. David stood in a cage he had helped build. A cage called silence. He told himself, "Tomorrow I will speak." But temptation never waits for permission. It chooses its own night. Abuja slept under a quiet moon. A generator hummed far away. Inside the small flat, Sarah slept deeply, tired from work. David tossed, stood, sat, prayed, lay down. Sleep came in pieces. A warm palm rested on his chest. He smiled in his dream, thinking Sarah had reached for him like she often did. The touch slid to his collarbone and stayed too long. He opened his eyes. The doorway line of light cut the room like a thin blade. "Sarah," he whispered. "David," came a soft voice that was not Sarah's. "Grace." His mouth went dry. "Don't be afraid," she whispered, stepping closer. "I won't harm you. You have been running. You fear your own heart. Let me give you peace." He sat up, pulling the sheet like a shield. "Leave. Now. This is wrong." "I am not stone," she murmured. "I gave my youth to a man who left me with a house full of air. I raised a daughter who now lives the life I prayed for. Every night I sleep with empty hands. I am flesh, David." Pain flickered in her voice, but pain does not change truth. "I love Sarah. I choose my wife. Go." She moved around the bed, slow like shadow, and stood near him. "One kiss. If your heart does not shake, I will never come close again." The corridor light brightened, a soft creak. Sarah sat up, rubbing her eyes. "David, water, please." Her words ended when she saw the picture. Her husband against the wall, her mother too close, a hand where it should never be. Silence fell heavy and hot. Then the room exploded. "Jesus!" Sarah cried. "Mummy! David?" She grabbed the lamp and lit the room. "Explain why my mother is in my bedroom at night touching my husband." Grace lifted her chin. "He wasn't feeling well. "Stop!" Sarah shouted.
She turned to David, eyes shaking. "You promised me truth. You let this enter our home." David stepped forward, palms open. "Sarah, I swear, I never touched her. She has been crossing lines for weeks. I kept quiet to protect you. I was wrong to hide it, but I did not betray you." Sarah looked at her mother. "Mummy, tell me my husband is lying." Grace's eyes hardened. "Men are men. If I wanted him, I could have had him long ago." Something broke inside Sarah, not with noise, but with finality. She pulled her wrapper, took her bag from the hook, and walked out. "Don't follow me," she said at the door. "Not now." The door closed softly. The night swallowed the sound.
David turned to Grace with a look she had never seen. Not fear, not desire. Clarity. "You destroyed peace and mocked trust," he said quietly. "And you dare call Sarah a child?" He ran down the stairs into the night to find his wife. Behind him, Grace stood alone, hands shaking, a mirror she could not break staring back at her in the bright, accusing lamp. Sarah didn't go far. She walked to a friend's apartment in Jabi, the one with a blue door and kind eyes named Ruth. Ruth opened at once when she saw the tears. "Come in," she said. "No questions yet. Just a big wrapper for warmth and a cup of warm milk. Sometimes care is not words, it is presence." "Ruth," she whispered, "I saw my mother in my bedroom, leaning over David. She has been trying to take my husband." Ruth's mouth fell open, then closed. She chose Sarah first. "Sleep here tonight," she said. "We will talk in the morning." David called. Sarah stared at the screen and let it ring. He sent a text. "I am outside Ruth's compound gate. I won't come in. I will sit here till morning. Please let me know you are safe." She put down the phone and cried quietly. She was safe, but peace felt far away. David sat on the curb by the gate, under a dim streetlight, the guard watching him with half-curious eyes. He prayed short, broken prayers. He typed a long message and deleted it. He waited. Waiting felt like an apology you say with your body when words are weak. Back at the flat, Grace paced like a trapped animal. Shame burned her face, but anger fought it for space. She wanted to blame David. She wanted to blame Sarah. She wanted to blame loneliness, time, the city. Instead, she washed a clean plate 3 times, then sat and stared at the door that did not open. Morning dragged itself into Abuja. David and Ruth sat at a small table. "What will you do?" Ruth asked gently. "First, I'll go home, collect some clothes, and leave again. I need space to think, and I need the truth. If David has been fighting this alone, that is wrong. If he joined her, that is worse. Either way, my mother broke the boundary that keeps a family safe." Ruth nodded. "I'll come with you." They took a taxi to Garki. David was still by the gate, eyes red from a night made of fear and dust. He stood. Sarah raised a hand. "Not now," she said. "Please let me pass." He stepped aside, pain written on his face like chalk. Inside, Sarah packed slowly. Grace tried to speak. "Daughter." "Don't," Sarah said, voice calm but firm. "I love you, but what you did is a wound I can't carry under the same roof." Grace's pride rose to protect her from her own reflection. "I was only testing him," she lied. "I wanted to see if he is faithful." Sarah looked at her mother as if seeing a stranger wearing a familiar face.
"A mother does not test her daughter's marriage with her body," she said softly. She picked up her bag and left. Relatives heard before noon. Calls started coming. Some asked David cruel questions. Others asked Grace what spirit had moved her. A few asked Sarah if she was sure of what she saw. Pain gets worse when people demand proof of what broke you. David sent one last text to Sarah. "Please allow me to explain face to face. I never touched her. I failed by keeping quiet. I am ready to tell everyone the truth and carry whatever comes." She didn't reply, but later that night she sent a short voice note. "Tomorrow, public place, 5 p.m., Jabi Lake, near the food stalls." David cried when he heard it, not because he had won, he hadn't, but because truth had been given a small seat at the table.
Jabi Lake at 5 p.m. is a place where Abuja forgets its seriousness. Children run, lovers share grilled fish, music leaks from small speakers. In the middle of ordinary life, Sarah and David sat on a low bench facing the water. Ruth sat a short distance away. She was there in case Sarah needed a friend to be a wall. David spoke first. He did not defend himself with poetry. He used simple words, because simple words hold truth better. "Your mother started small. Compliments, lingering touches. I felt uncomfortable. I avoided being alone with her. I should have told you. I was afraid to hurt you, and I was ashamed that it was happening at all. Last night she came to our room. I told her to leave. Then you woke up. I am sorry I kept this in the dark. Darkness made it grow." Sarah listened without interrupting. When he finished, she asked one question. "Did you ever want her?" "No," he said, eyes clear. "Fear is what I felt, and anger at myself for keeping quiet." She nodded. Silence sat with them. Finally, she said, "Pain is heavy. I need time to put it down. I also need boundaries to feel safe. My mother must leave Abuja for a while, and we must see a counselor at church. If we try to love without washing this wound, it will infect everything." "I agree," David said. He reached into his pocket and brought out his house keys. "Take these. Keep them. I will stay with Kunle for now. Call me only when you want to talk. I will wait." Grace called Sarah that evening. For the first time, her voice trembled without pride. She said, "I am going back to Enugu tomorrow. I have sinned against you." The words were small, but they were real. Sarah cried after the call, not because the wound had healed, but because wounds heal better when the knife admits it is a knife. The next week, Pastor Michael at church met with Sarah and David. He listened more than he spoke. "Truth is water," he said at last. "Let it wash your home. Forgive in steps, not in a jump, and build new walls. Doors that lock, words that do not hide, prayers that do not pretend." They wrote rules on paper. No secret discomfort. Speak it the same day. No night visitors. Doors locked, boundaries clear. No silence. If something feels wrong, say it aloud even if it shakes. Slowly, like a city waking, peace began to lift its head in their home again. 2 months later, the flat in Garki sounded like itself again. The TV too loud when David watched football, Sarah's sewing machine humming in the bedroom, plantain frying on Saturday mornings, shared laughter about nothing. Scars remained, scars always do, but scars are proof that skin chose to close. Grace called sometimes, then often,
then less again. She stayed in Enugu, attending a women's fellowship where she finally said the whole truth to other mothers and did not run from the sound of it. The fellowship leader told her, "Shame grows in hiding, bring it into light, and it gets smaller." Grace learned to sit with the ache she had tried to feed with sin. She learned that desire does not excuse harm, and loneliness does not make theft holy. Sarah visited Enugu once alone. Mother and daughter sat in a small sitting room with tea between them. Grace tried to speak, but tears came first. "I have no excuse," she said when words returned. "I broke the fence I was supposed to guard." Sarah held her hand. "I am still your daughter," she replied, "but we will build a new fence together, one where my marriage is not your field." Back in Abuja, Sarah and David took evening walks again. They returned to Jabi Lake. They prayed in whispers that did not pretend strength on days when trust felt thin. They met the counselor monthly and talked about small things before they grew big. The house rules stayed on the fridge like a map. One Sunday afternoon, David found Sarah dozing on the sofa, her head tilted in a way that made him smile. He covered her with a wrapper and sat quietly, thinking about the night he almost lost her to silence. He wrote a note and stuck it on the fridge next to the rules. "Truth early, love loudly, guard gently." When Sarah woke, she read it and hugged him from behind, chin on his shoulder. "We are learning," she said. He nodded. "Learning is also love." In time, laughter came back without having to be called. They visited Jabi Night Market again, bought corn with extra butter, and told each other new dreams. A bigger shop for Sarah, a professional course for David, children who would know what safe looks like. They promised that if danger ever came wearing a familiar face, they would not shut doors and whisper. They would switch on the light. And Abuja, the city that hears many stories, heard theirs too. A story that began with betrayal, but did not end there. A story in which a home broke and was rebuilt, not by pretending the crack never happened, but by cleaning it, mending it, and deciding to stand guard together. Moral lesson. Sometimes the danger to a marriage is not the stranger outside, but the hand inside the house. Speak the truth early. Protect your home with clear boundaries, and remember, love survives best in the light.